We are live. I'll say something real quick, Jess.
Good evening, everyone. We got it?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, I think we'll call the meeting to order. It is 6:59 on April the 13th. Welcome, everybody. First thing we'll do here is do a roll call. Council petition number 1, Joe Armand.
Joe is here.
Joe is here. Council petition number 2, David Budrus.
Present.
David's here. Council position number 3, Stephen Hardy.
Present.
Council position number 4, Peter Davenport.
Present.
And I have
Not
not.
yet. We are starting early, so he
Okay,
might not.
so Levi Shank is not here at the moment. And we'll continue on here and recognize any visitors who'd like to have their names put in the minutes.
Pastor Cade Clark, Harrington Nazarene Church and Food Bank.
Welcome, Cade.
Betty Warner,
Betty Warner.
Diane Sanchez,
Diane Sanchez. Welcome.
Chris Moritz.
Chris Moritz.
You know.
Stan Roth.
And Stan Roth. Thank you all for coming. Is there any additions to our agenda tonight from the council?
Yeah, are we gonna talk about spraying? Spraying weeds, is that on the agenda?
It is.
I would also like to have a brief conversation about wind damage. Wind damage.
Okay?
And I have a comment about sidewalks, or a question about sidewalks.
I just have one to add. The status of our mandatory training that was emailed out March 22nd, where it stands, and I'll follow up on that.
Okay. First thing on the agenda is to approve the regular meeting minutes from March 9th.
I'll go to me.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Mark.
I just have one clarification for the record. Additions to the agenda under Stan Roth Cemetery Report, Tim Campaw Burning Yard Waste, and Dave Junk Cars. Listening back on the tape, it was not junk cars, it was about the mandatory training. I listened to the tape, but yes, sir, it's there.
Maybe you brought that up.
This is under additions to the agenda. Yes.
Yeah, that night, David Neuschwander was here discussing his neighbor's junk cars.
Okay, if that's, you mean Dave Neuschwander then, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just for the record, that would be
And this is from March 9th?
23rd. Oh, we're on March 9th. Didn't we already approve the March 9th?
Yeah,
That's 3 meetings ago.
kind of thought we should have.
We did not because there was a special meeting the last meeting. And it did not include minutes or payroll.
On the 23rd?
I do seem to recall that we skipped over one. I think this is it.
April 6th was the special meeting.
Right, I know that, but how come we didn't, I guess my question is, we didn't approve it the 23rd, March 23rd? 'Cause that's not like us really to skip a,
Yeah, I know we didn't approve any minutes last week in our special
Right.
meeting, but I think in our last regular meeting on the 23rd of March, I thought we approved March 9.
Ninth. So I stand corrected, Clerk Jerry, that if it's a jumped ahead one, but that is, so it's noted in there, it's not me, because I go by both names and stuff, so
Okay.
that's fine.
I'm gonna pull up the agenda from the 23rd because I believe that has the approval of March 9.
It's in there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're good.
So you're telling me this one has already been approved?
March 9th, yes, according to the March 23rd
Okay.
meeting minutes here.
Okay,
So now we're looking at March 23rd notes. Not March 9.
so the next one is March 23rd.
Okay, yeah, I see your point, David. David junk cars and then Neuschwanger.
Oh, you were
That's right.
you were thinking that
He
was the,
chose not to introduce himself as a
our
guest.
ordinance, the junk car ordinance?
True.
Yeah, well, brought up for additions to the agenda,
Right.
when I brought up the
Got it.
mandatory training, whether we wanna put, that's not in there, but it was
Right.
brought up, so we could add that, and then clarify, put Dave in, or guest, or whatever.
Mhm.
Got it.
I mean, it all kind of flows together, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't think we forgot March 9th.
I did.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Stephen moved to approve these as amended, and David seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries 4-0. The special meeting on the 6th. I think I have one change to that. Levi was here. He was not here by phone.
Yes. I believe that's true.
and I have one adjustment. It's just a typo. It's on the first approval, disapproval, CAO. It's FEMA, FEM, capital A.
Yes.
And then the paragraph below that, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm guessing that's 5 for geological hazardous areas instead of the caret symbol.
Dunce hat.
Hmm.
Dunce hat.
Done that. Learn something new every
You
day.
send the minutes
I don't have,
electronically?
yes, I think the 9th is here. Let me see if I can get those.
The ninth?
Yeah, we're on, no, excuse me.
We're on the
correct.
6th.
The 6th of April, special meeting, sorry.
And we probably need to put the time that we adjourned.
I don't have those minutes.
I think was like 7:16, 7:17, somewhere along there.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Can I ask a favor of you guys?
Sure.
If I send this out on Friday, could you send me the corrections on Monday? And that way I can have them made when we come into the meeting
Sure.
and save some time.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks. Or was that for Jess?
To make a motion to approve the 6th, or and we'll have discussion.
I will so move with corrections noted.
Okay. So it's been moved by Joe that we accept the minutes for the meeting on April 6th. We got a second?
Second.
Second by Peter. Any further discussion?
None for me.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes for April 6th as corrected? Say aye.
Alright,
Aye.
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 Opposed? The same? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, I think the next thing we'll go to is wind damage.
so before,
Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. We're gonna go to approve our claims for the month.
and since you have claims and payroll listed separately, I'm assuming we're just dealing with check register at this time then? Yeah. That's the way I like it. So good.
I have a question for transaction 192. Lincoln County Public Works.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that for, what is that, is that tipping fees, or is that the garbage,
That's the scale fees.
okay, those are,
Yeah, for our weekly garbage.
okay, thank you.
So just a note for future clarification, we get that bill from the county. We get a separate bill from Sunshine for doing the labor and the work and all that. Okay.
So we're averaging 5,000 to 6,000 a month for waste disposal.
Okay.
That's including those green waste and everything? Or
That is just
Um,
garbage.
Yeah.
The
'Cause
green waste is on top,
and it's on demand.
yeah.
Who bills us for that? The county? Okay.
When we do get billed for that, is it billed separately or would it be a part of the,
It comes as a separate bill.
okay, good.
We have an example in that for this month.
It's in the drawer in front of you, Jerry, in the manila folder.
So to let you guys know, I did peruse the AAA lab invoices, and I was not enlightened on how it comes about.
Which invoices?
Triple A.
AAA labs,
Oh, what'd you find?
just some consistencies, but other inconsistencies. They would run one particular test 3 times, and then every other time they'd run it twice. Some tests they ran twice every single time, regardless. so I couldn't really track the logic behind it, but
I will say that has been happening well into the 90s though,
okay.
because for reasons I don't need to rabbit trail on here. Out of curiosity, I went looking for the public record of Harrington's water tests going back as far as they're listed online, and I could not get a rhyme or reason for why some years, like there was only one test of a type, and then other years there was like 3 or 4. And so I'm not saying it's right, but it's not, that behavior is not new.
Okay. Just,
Yeah.
it was as confusing
I
in
could,
the 90s as it is now. Okay.
Could that be federal or state requirements as they change?
I'm
That's true.
assuming that behavior being consistent across, because you could also see on that record the different labs that were used, and I know there were different city employees. So when you add up all the, there he is, when you add up all the different people who were involved in this, and they kept the same behavior and what appears to be erraticness over the time,
Welcome.
I'm guessing
Thank
there
you.
has to be some explanation for it.
Cool. Thank you. for that.
Stephen, Councilman Steve, Hardy, did you find a correlation between wastewater tests and WTB, wastewater treatment plant testing? Because according to this, AAA labs are both made out to them. The one's for $777.
I
And
was
that's,
specifically referring to the well-based testing. I didn't see, I wasn't looking into the records for the wastewater testing.
well, the well testing, what do we send over to Lincoln County Public, or no, excuse me, Lincoln County Health? $30 water test, number 100. Isn't that for our wells?
I couldn't test to that.
Do you know, Jerry?
That is drinking water, the
Okay.
Department of Health, yes.
Well, I'm personally finding it hard to follow the checks that are made out to AAA lab. And some of them are wastewater tests. And there's, in this particular instance, on March 4th, and then on March 11th. And then you go up here, and I'm just assuming that on the 7th, we have one for the same amount, but it just says wastewater testing. Just exactly what's going on with this. And wastewater, that's our treatment plant, or is that our storm drain? Just exactly what are they testing?
Wastewater typically refers to the sewer plant, and water testing will refer to our drinking.
All right. That's the way I kind of read it, but
I have very little space to clarify, so I just try to grab a couple keywords off the bill and put them on there.
Makes sense. Move the approval of the check register claims.
Second.
What was the motion, please?
I moved the approval of the check register claims.
have you seen all of them, Peter?
I haven't seen all of them.
Well, here's some, if you can read through that highlighting stuff.
Question about James A. Sewell and Associates.
What
Did we-
number, Peter?
Had we paid
176.
1682 out of 1800 that we finally paid him?
It was 118,
18.
cause we had a credit balance,
Okay.
cause they send me a bill, I pay the bill. Then I pay the bill and they say, oh, you didn't need to do that. And then they'll send me another bill, and then they'll tell me, we're gonna credit you. So, yeah, they're just,
Today's your lucky day.
yeah.
Lawyers.
Does the bill state what it's for? What time period or what work done?
Yeah, roughly speaking, they do analysis or labor that they put in, or, you know, little one-word things that design something and analysis. It's basically all they say.
Thank you.
Feel all right?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the check register. Any further discussion?
Second. You need a second?
No, it's been moved and seconded.
Okay,
If there's no further discussion,
second?
we'll call for a vote.
I didn't hear the second.
I didn't hear it.
Levi.
I seconded, yeah.
Levi.
Stephen
Okay.
made the
Stephen
motion.
first, Levi seconded.
No discussion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed, say the same. Motion passes. So, next thing on the agenda, wind damage.
Payroll.
Payroll. You're jumping ahead again.
I don't have it here. That's not good.
Are you in here, or is it on there?
Well, I had everything set out, lined out for me. Okay, we're gonna back up 1 second here, gentlemen.
And what?
Did payroll.
I mean, I don't care. We can talk about wind damage
What day was
whenever.
it?
Don't
No,
just
that's
go-
okay.
should be
I'm not
okay.
sure. I've gone through these
Don't just go back
papers
to Jerry, or?
so many
I think other
times
people wanted
today.
to see it.
Oh, yeah, it hasn't made its way down there.
It's probably laying home on my kitchen table.
Nope.
So, can we get a motion to approve the payroll?
Yeah, the check register looks normal to me.
Okay.
I need the approval.
I,
Oh,
I have some issues, or some clarification, folks.
Did
Okay,
you guys wanna see that?
What is that?
This is to be added to it. Is what-
No,
it's
you
just
wanted
an
to see the
example.
solid waste example.
Oh,
Green waste.
Green waste, yeah.
oh, okay, that's fine then.
Can't put solid waste in the green bin. That's frowned upon.
Yeah.
True. Touche. Brown,
Well,
green waste.
not supposed to, right? If we're ready for discussion, I'll just.
there's no motion on the floor yet.
Okay. My concern, or just to wrap my mind around this, is we begin with the transaction number 197. And then we don't have another, that's dated March 15th. And then we don't have another one until the 31st of March, and its transaction is 26 transactions difference at 223. And then they're all sequential.
It's very, very complicated, but I'll try to explain it.
But, and then the checks, those same two figures, there's 10 checks difference in there.
Can you help? Oh, okay.
Okay,
I see where now. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're talking about 4 lines down in the, okay.
okay, everybody looking at the check register data. You see over there, we have the clerk paid. He's the very first entry in that. And then you have 10 checks difference for the second entry. But they don't match, there's 10 transactions by check number, and over to the left, there's actually 26 on numbers. And then my other question is, when you get down, they're all, with the exception of the first check, they're all sequential with the date and check numbers until you get down to the last two, the exception of the date is the 16th instead of the 31st. Is that a computer glitch or?
Well, there is a human glitch and a computer decision to do its own thing. I did not put the order in of how it printed. It did it on its own.
And
So it's got some sort of internal way it does that.
Okay.
As far as the sequence of the numbers, if you pull the checks out of the wrong folder and you print them in the wrong order, which I did. Very complicated there. So my guess is March payroll being alphabetical, end of month payroll comes at a separate system, and it's alphabetizing or it's sequence. So it's gonna group all of the end of the months together, and it's gonna group mid-month together and March together.
Well, it looks like, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would seem like the transaction number is universal, in that I don't see any transaction numbers doubling up between payroll and claims. And so it looks like any type of expenditure you make gets a transaction number, and then when you break out a report into payroll and into claims, it's just gonna filter those into those particular types and show you the ones that come, but chronologically, they might be, maybe you paid an Amazon bill, and then you did a payroll check, and then you did this, and then you did that, and they could be layered such that you won't see them sequential in a group, in a filtered report,
True.
but they happened chronologically as you happen to do each transaction of different types.
Okay, yes.
For transactions, but then you were talking checks too?
Well, but they're all, I think they're all a transaction, in that they are all moving money for some purpose.
Yeah,
It's just a difference between claims and payroll in the listed type column.
Well, is it a bug in the system? Cause I've went back in time to priors and they didn't have this.
Well, before bias?
Well,
I-
Janice was doing it, and then some that Jerry's done last year in 21. And there's a little bit different format, but this is the second time that I've caught this, that, and my concern is the auditing portion of this. If you look at all the checks that are written, 331 sequential down, and to the last two, they're dated the 16th of March. But they're also, and then at the memo part says March in payment. Well, the date doesn't match that, and I don't know if it's a biggie. I just, is it something where we need to recalibrate that crazy bias or Springbok?
I can ask them about it, but I don't have any control over the transaction.
Because I'm not an auditor, but I guarantee you that if that ever gets audited, that will come up. And just trying to stave it off, so a year or two down the road, we're not scratching our head trying to figure out what in the heck happened.
I'll ask Bias about it.
Do you, see what I'm talking about, Stephen?
Yeah, no, I do. I
Okay.
mean, I agree that I don't understand inherently why transaction
What date was this
229 is
about?
coming after 228, and yet the dates are reversed, but
It wasn't there.
I mean, I would agree that anything we can do to get the auditor happier is probably
This
a
is what
sound
Rob knows
investment,
about these
but I'm
computers.
not concerned that it represents any
They're useless.
tangible impact.
And my question is just for clarification.
What wouldn't have been sent out in March?
The claims have a different
It
sequence of
was,
check numbers?
no, it
Are
was
they
just
two
the
different
other day.
accounts that they're being pulled from?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed.
Here we go. Okay, that's the register,
Has anybody moved to approve yet?
and here's
You
what.
can?
Okay.
This is what we were talking about here,
I don't have to have all the fun.
these numbers. I don't know if you if you're concentrating on that or hear what my concerns were, what we were talking about.
I haven't looked at this yet.
Still need a motion to approve payroll? So moved.
We need somebody to make a second too after that. We don't have
Second.
it. Okay. So it's moved and seconded.
Question? I see Scott McGowan on this list.
Yes,
Mhm.
I thought he was hired by AAA Labs.
he is.
And us.
And why is the city paying him directly?
He works, has been about 10 hours a week for us in training and other,
So he's employed by two people, two entities.
that's correct.
Okay.
He is a part-time employee for the city.
Got it, thank you.
You bet. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No? No?
Call the question?
Yes. All in favor of approving the checks as discussed here?
Aye.
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 I abstain,
Okay,
for the record, record it.
4-1. Motion passes. Thank you.
401.
Excuse me.
Somebody say 4-0?
401, I abstained.
Oh.
Do we have to have a reason for the abstention?
I don't believe so.
So the city people have two, I have not personally checked my own. I don't.
I know you've been anxiously waiting, Stephen, but now
Well,
I'm
you-
going to put you
You've been
off.
teasing me.
We're gonna listen to Cindy give us an update on the town square project.
Well, the committee of individuals met Saturday. We went over the budget funds that we have. For those that don't know, we were able to obtain another grant under the chamber, not as the chamber, well, as the chamber, but it's still for the committee, not, the chamber is still not in charge of this funds, for $6,200. We looked at the budget, and have chosen to put off the concrete, the sidewalk, as the last thing that we're going to do. We're going to try and get the remainder of the project done, with the funds that we have, which I believe that we have enough funds to be able to do that. And so, with that being said, Kaiser was in Monday, Tuesday, finishing up their contract. The benches that were sponsored have been ordered. The light poles that will be going up that have already been paid for, they're supposed to be going up before too long. Jay Gossett is gonna be contacting a company to be able to see if maybe we can't even obtain some donations for the sand and gravel that needs to be laid down prior to the bricks being laid in the brick path. I think in the original, in the original budget, it was said to have like a brick in front of the bathrooms. We have decided that for longevity purposes, it would be better to have concrete rather than the brick. I don't know that that's gonna be a huge addition to the expense or budget, but that's what we've decided to do. For the purposes of making sure that it's not a big maintenance thing for the city. Diane is going to be finding out about getting fabric to put down on the remainder portion of the lot. We're gonna put down the river rock where originally it was bark, because in this area, the wind blows, it doesn't look nice after about a year. That's what we're looking at doing, so we'll find out what that entails and what that would play into the budget, but I believe that that will still be feasible to the budget that we have left of funds. And then, I think the only other thing that we had talked about, one other thing that we had talked about is we're trying to get from Inovia A to B, start to finish, where we are right now, transaction list, you know, kind of a quicken transaction, easy for everybody to read what deposits were made, where all the expenses went, so that everybody can see and be open about the whole situation there. There's been some question about it. Again, I've come into the middle of this, as I've said before, so just trying to keep everybody in the loop on that. That request has been made from Inovia. We don't have a copy of that as of yet. So then it becomes, if we run out of funds to finish this portion of the project without having the concrete done, we would like for the council to entertain the city of Harrington or we will apply, if you will entertain, for a grant to be able to do sidewalk concrete project. If that's something that the city is willing to do, not a matching, hopefully, but something that's not an obligatory type deal. It's just funds that would pay to have the sidewalk done and have the concrete done.
Do you have an estimate of how many yards or the size, the scope of how much concrete, roughly? Or
And I apologize, I was busy vetting a horse, so I don't have my book with me, I just flew out the door. I wanna say that it was somewhere around 29 yards
Okay.
of concrete, and
give or take?
last fall, when we had estimated it, there was a company that was willing to come in and do the sidewalk. It was a concrete slab for the silo, and I believe the bathroom as well, but I'll have to double check on that. But it was right under $8,000 to be able to do that. So that's roughly, but now things have gone up.
Did that
so
include labor? That was the
this
whole
was a
treatment.
company that was willing to
Okay.
come in for that price. So we're talking about under $10,000 to be able to do that portion of the concrete, the slab on the silo, and then around the bathroom. If that's not something that we can do at this point, the thing that we had talked about doing is, if it fits in our budget now, was to be able to put up like the parking barriers so that people won't be driving into the area or parking into the area where the sidewalk is supposed to go. And hopefully, we'll be able to do that. We're looking at getting some of those to mount the benches so that people just can't walk off with those type deal.
Thank you.
We'll have a name tag on them anyways if we find them.
Yes, they will have a sponsor or in memory or whatever the sponsorship was named for. They will have a plaque on each bench for that particular thing.
Question. Maybe you addressed this, but was the concrete work not included in the original budgeting?
Correct,
Even the sidewalk?
correct.
What was the question?
I said even the sidewalk portion, just cause I heard what you said, that originally around the bathrooms it wasn't intended, but I thought the sidewalk was always there.
No, the sidewalk was not there. And so that kind of becomes our overage is all the concrete is the overage of where our budget is at this point.
Question, I guess, concrete sidewalk, is that next to the street? I mean, is that in the square, or is that what, like the city, or normal
It'll be
traffic?
replacing the concrete that was, or the
Gotcha.
sidewalk that was taken out,
Oh, okay,
because it was broken up and very bad.
yeah,
And yes, and then some.
okay.
And
so-
then, so it's replacing the sidewalk that went along, the north
Willis.
side. It's gonna be the,
Willis
it's
Street.
gonna be the, it'll be a concrete slab within the silo. Cause the intent is that if somebody wants to use it as a venue, they would be able to do that. And then originally it was supposed to be brick around the bathroom, but it was agreed that for longevity around the bathroom, if we want to be able to have, you know, people coming in, going, and then I think that the PDA is also talking about trying to get like an electric,
Charge station?
charge thing there, so if people are coming and going out of there, we want it to last and not have to have a ton of maintenance to it.
So, going forward, is that pretty much all the concrete that you would need, or is there,
Yes.
hey, this would look good over here, in other words,
No,
that this is it,
this is it,
no more?
no more. I want this to be done.
Well, it's just, the reason why I asked that question is you start this project, and then you go, boy, it'd look good if we had one over here too, but I just.
No, and I
It's-
think
I'm saying it in a
basically as we
positive
looked
way.
at it, as, you know, there was broken, ugly, whatever
Yeah.
sidewalk that was on that side, and it's like, we're basically putting in this huge, beautiful lot is what it was supposed to be. It's like having this beautiful landscape in your yard, and then having this house that needs to be painted and needs to have gutters done and whatever else. It's like, this was an eyesore. We want it to be complete, is what
Was a
we're looking at.
liability too.
Is there anything that we have to take in consideration of ADA compliant ramps or any of that?
That is going to be taken in
Right.
consideration. It was already done with the bathroom, so that is
Okay.
going to be detailed with the concrete pad that goes into the bathroom.
Okay. What's, forgive me, I haven't walked that street for a while, but along Third Street, what's the condition of the sidewalk there? Is that,
It's in good shape.
is it,
It's comparable to the rest of it
okay,
on Third.
okay. Thank you.
You mentioned a grant, do you have a source in mind?
Well, we have a grant writer that we have been utilizing that was able to actually find a grant to pay for her sources. And so we've been utilizing her. So she is guiding us in finding grants and guiding us in writing grants. And so we have already reached out to her to see if there are any kind of grants available in the name of the city, or not even in the name of the city, if there's any grants available. What we'd like to do is kind of take it out of our hands and put it into the cities, as that's where it needs to move in the future.
Is Zenobia a possibility or not?
That's where the last grant came from, and so most likely not. There was, what was there, 300?
300,
Yeah, 300 applications in the last round.
and they all got a piece of the action.
Is there any way, fundraisers of any sort? Any ideas on going that route?
Could be.
You
That's
know.
how we raised funds for the benches and a lot of the stuff that's there.
Bricks.
Because we had to match the original Innovia grant.
Right.
And we did we matched 30,000, and then we made another 18,000 on fundraising.
Actually, I think more than that.
Was it more than that?
Yeah, because the total deposits, as I see it, was around 86,000
That's
to
what I
the
thought.
project.
Okay.
So I just wondered if it's possible to do that.
It is, it's just, as a group and personally, I don't wanna have to go back to
No, yeah.
individuals and say, hey, you know, we need more money. It's something we can do. I just assume not do if we don't have to. And maybe the city has some funds somewhere. I'm seriously doubting it, but is,
Is there actually blueprints referencing the concrete work? Is there something laid out, sketched out, even a rough draft, or you look at it, okay, this is what we plan on doing, goes this way, I mean, or is it just one day a concrete truck shows up and everybody just points, oh, I like it here, I mean, how organized is it? I mean, is it kinda set in stone?
it's not
Good
set in
pun.
stone, no.
Yeah, thanks.
No, but that is something that can easily be done as to where we want it all to go. I mean, we all have that vision and know exactly what we're talking about, but as far as having a blueprint or a landscape or any kind of
There
thing,
is a plan on the board down there.
Okay, well, maybe I ought
Yes.
to walk down there and look
That
at
one.
it.
there is a plan that was originally done, but we have veered from that.
Hope you
Because there
can-
was even supposed to be a playground of sorts, you know, for kids and stuff, but the lot is shrinking. And so we have decided that one just not gonna,
I know where you can
taking
get
it out.
I know where you can get a good fire truck for a PlayStation.
No, no.
Cindy,
Pretty emphatic
the
about
walk
that.
you're talking about is an extension of the sidewalk that already turns the corner onto Willis.
Yes.
Cause it comes down
'Cause
Third,
it
turns the
comes down
corner and
this
goes out
way.
about 10 feet.
It was
and-
taken out from the corner down towards the fire station.
Right,
That's what was taken out. So
Just
that sidewalk is gonna be replaced, and I believe it was somewhere around 80, 90 feet.
It went to the alley before the old sidewalk.
Right at the
Yeah.
alley, yes.
Yeah, alley.
So that's the sidewalk, and then it's a slab going into the silo, and then, it'll be a separate, I don't believe it's gonna wrap around. I think the intention was then it's gonna be a separate that would go from the bathroom.
And I guess my other question, and I'm probably jumping the gun here, as far as it gets back to the planning, how wide a sidewalk you guys wanna go?
We just,
Yeah.
we put it in the
Same
same sidewalk that we took out.
You know, but planning future, if you're gonna get that kind of traffic there, you may want a wider one, not just a standard 4 or 5 foot. I mean, at one time, I think, there's wider sidewalks, but if, given the projected usage of this, it may behoove you to go bigger, if allowable. Just a thought.
If the city is willing to, for us to navigate, to get grants to be able to do that, I'm happy to add that.
I'm good.
Kate had a question for
In
Cindy.
observance with what you're discussing on the sidewalk, and I've been doing research on the torn up, unsafe sidewalk on the church property. The plan's already in place. The city has the plan that the sidewalk belongs. It's the city's responsibility to partner and replace the sidewalk.
Correct.
Not necessarily the project, it's the city's responsibility to replace the sidewalk and partner with someone else since it was taken up. It was explained to me if I wanted to remove my unsafe sidewalk, I would have to pay to replace it. Because the city's not gonna come in and do it.
I believe that the city and the homeowner pay, and so in this case, the city owns the whole thing.
So then, we're back to you already had the plan for the sidewalk, you know that already. Cause it's in a city map somewhere. Because the city was mapped with sidewalks between the 1930s and 1950s. So the plan
And
for
we've-
that's already there for that particular sidewalk.
We discussed some of that, I think with the TIB related stuff about sidewalk mapping and photographing discussion came up last year, I think. In terms of the city's responsibility for maintenance of sidewalks.
Are you
Well-
talking about the sidewalk on the south side of the church? And are you saying that's the church's responsibility or the city's?
I was told one of two things, that if I chose to remove it, because I've had people get injured because of it, I would have to replace it myself. But then I would have to wait for it was explained to this, if you don't mind me saying it this way, hell to freeze over before the city would replace it.
I think we did have a discussion of that part,
So I
That
have,
was a while ago,
like
yeah.
with this sidewalk, and I'm for the sidewalk, but I'm also saying, you asked for a plan, the plan's already there, it was a previous sidewalk. And so thus it's the city's responsibility to help replace this sidewalk.
right.
And
Well,
so Cindy's saying, I can get funding, will the city help replace this to make it a safe place and a cosmetically nice place for the city, since it's both city property?
Well, just for clarification, yes, you are correct.
Okay.
And, but for planning purposes, I know the city's responsibility on that, but I was mainly directing my question to what the town square or going for in there, once it's on the property, if it's
Okay.
all decided.
Okay, so you were wanting, well, you'll need two plans then, so you were both asking if I can clarify that you want a plan for the inside where the concrete needs to go, along with a plan where the city needs to replace the sidewalk, which Cindy was also talking about.
Right.
Okay,
No.
I'm sorry about that,
Oh, that's okay.
okay. Thank you.
You bet. Any further questions for Cindy?
One other quick thought as it pertains to the River Rock. I think some town around here, maybe it's Reardon's Lions Club, someone makes a fundraiser yearly of helping to get bulk landscape. I think it's rock and mulch and stuff, and they use it as a fundraiser to the community. For a fundraiser thing, if you're getting a load of river rock and some truck is gonna come dump it, one thing you might wanna think about is providing the opportunity for the citizens to pile onto that load at a fundraising profit to that, cause I know I would get in on that. And I'd be happy to see extra money go to cover the cost of transport and for other things as well, because it's still cheaper than I could obtain
That's
the
a
amount
great
that I need
idea.
on my own.
Yeah,
And if there's, I know you say you might be moving away from mulch, but if there's still part of it because it's closer to the wall or something, any type of bulk landscaping resources that you guys are gonna get, it could be mutually beneficial to try and see if the community wants to.
Well, I
Get
know
on
the
that.
Sanchez's need more river rock, so we don't have enough.
Yeah.
As long as it's not bark.
no, no bark.
Just kidding.
So I guess that's my report, but what we wanna know as a committee is will the council allow us to pursue an avenue of a grant on behalf of the city for the sidewalk?
That's what I heard you say.
And if we can get more to finish the rest of the concrete, great. If not, we'll figure out something else.
Any further questions for Cindy?
Well, is she asking of a motion from us?
You need an answer. Would
I
you
wanna
like an
know
answer
if the
tonight?
council is willing for us to pursue a grant. And then if we come up with a grant for the city without any repercussion, it's like, here's the money to replace the sidewalk, are we gonna have a problem with it?
Translation, you give us a check for the sidewalks,
Correct.
goes into our account, and it
Yes, but it
goes
has
out of
to
the
be in-
account for the
I
sidewalk.
want it to be in the city's name. I no longer want it to be Harrington Chamber of Commerce.
You're just facilitating a grant.
Correct.
Of all the portions of things connected with that project, I think it's quite correct to say the sidewalk is something that we are responsible to, whether there is a town center there or not. So I have no problem with, there's no way that I'm familiar with that we don't have that obligation, so we might as well have money to pay for it. I'm fine with that.
So if we get it to go forward, somebody's gonna sign and we have permission for Jess to sign off on any grant application.
That's, okay.
I make a motion to that effect.
I'll
To
second.
what effect? That the
That
city,
Jess would have permission to act in accordance with the pursuit of a grant to replace concrete for the sidewalk primarily. And if there is extra that they can obtain in the grant to be used for what is also the city property in the town square project, that would be great.
I second.
David seconded. Go for it.
So it's been moved and seconded that the council would bless a grant if it were gotten.
Bless the chamber, is it the chamber going
It's a
for it?
committee,
Committee.
the town square committee, is that correct?
That is correct.
It's not the chamber, not the
Everything
PDA.
has been funneled through the chamber because there had to be a nonprofit
Right.
in order to funnel the funds through. So the chamber was willing to allow the funds to funnel through the
Oh.
chamber. It is not a chamber project, it's not any other organization, it's just simply a group of people,
The town square committee.
yes.
Yes,
This is a motion being brought up
yes,
in the meeting. It should probably be delayed
that's
till
true.
the next meeting.
It's, well, actually, the town square was on our agenda. So this is
But the
one of those,
motion wasn't.
You're
I would say.
we have
You're
one of
referring
those
to what
with
we were
our
talking
audit
about.
this year.
We're gonna
I
have a
could be
free for all
wrong,
here for a second.
but
So Joe,
to
do you
me,
want
I
to ask
think
her
it was
something?
Not
the
on
core
the
of
agenda.
that
I'm
was
good. I was-
what it came to
Okay.
the
I was gonna type
expenditure of
out the
city
motion.
funds
I don't-
or
I think
taxes.
we
Okay.
could.
Came out
At this
of
point,
my
what we're
mouth.
authoring is the
As you
acquisition of city
pointed
funds,
out.
not the expenditure
Yeah, it is here.
or the
Town
taxation
Square
upon
Committee
the public.
report.
So your point might still be valid, but to me, I think it's, we're just saying you can go get us money. And I don't, because I know that generally the OPMA allows us to add final actions to the agenda. So I don't think it falls afoul of the other thing about the public being aware of financial impacting decisions first. But
And obviously, if we come up with a grant of some sort,
you could,
we're
you
going
could,
to come
your concern
back
could be right.
and report that we found these funds.
Right,
It's
Because
not
then-
like we're just gonna move forward and not say another word.
question. I think you mentioned you're shooting for a grant of $8,000,
We're gonna just shoot for a grant,
whatever you can get.
correct?
And is it your impression that that will finish the project?
I don't believe
If
the
Depends on the
OPMA requires you have those discussions.
Is that your
To
objective?
obtain a grant for the sidewalk, you mean?
and
So
possibly
the
the,
sidewalk is not the last portion of the,
That will be the last portion.
yes.
We have the funds. If we have budgeted correctly, we have the funds to complete the rest of the project. The sidewalk and the concrete are the last things we're putting off. We may have funds left over to complete the concrete for the silo and the bathroom. We will not have the funds left over to be able to complete the sidewalk.
And it is the city's responsibility to some degree to replace that.
What did
I
our
don't even know who tore
parliamentarian,
it up,
is he
but
working on that?
It wasn't that good,
He's,
was it?
he thinks we're okay.
call the question.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we,
Allow.
allow the chamber to attempt to get a grant,
On
To-
behalf of the committee.
On behalf of the city, yeah.
on behalf of the city, to
Correct.
finish the concrete sidewalk.
If I can clarify, it's the town square committee, not the chamber.
No, I think she's,
Yes, the committee,
It is the town
Chamber-
square committee.
that will attain this grant.
We will pursue.
Okay,
Seek the grant, and we, if I remember the motion correctly, are saying that we're giving you authority to sign for it.
If we can find one,
if-
Word.
If it can be found.
yes.
so it's moved and seconded.
And
Can you
Let's
call
have
the
a vote.
question?
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, chamber. Are you smiling?
Committee, not chamber.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy, for
Thank you
coming.
very much, you guys.
sorry to put you on.
It'll be
We-
nice.
we
It
appreciate
really-
the
I promise
update.
It'll be wonderful.
Okay, next thing on the agenda was meter reading and meters, and I'd like to postpone that until the April 27th workshop. It's nothing that we need to vote on in the name of time. Next, after that, would be the junk vehicle update. Is there anything on that, David?
No, there is not at this time.
Okay. So I had a little struggle over the last few days of contacting our lawyer. Are you still dealing with similar issues?
I don't know, yes, to be honest with you, and it's a little history on this, started back in September of 2021. And through correspondence and up to current, frustrations mounted. I believe, this may not be the person to run that ordinance through, the firm to run this through, because
Do I remember, David, you said you were gonna go to Wilbur, I think was your last update?
I do have an ordinance from Reardon right now that just yesterday, mailed, fresh off the press. And I'm going that route right at the moment to present two things that convolute everything up. We have currently two ordinances, 389, I believe, and 462. And they're both nuisance ordinance, but one deals with junk cars and some other stuff, and the 389 deals with nuisances. It could encompass some cars and junk and all that. But one's a 1996, I believe, and one's a 2008. Going forward, because of the lack of progression I've experienced with the attorney, and to straighten, tidy things up, I think it behoove us to repeal those and accept one ordinance that encompasses both, and we deal with the most current. Because right now, what I got out of prior, back in October of 2021, was that, and I wasn't aware that 389 even existed. I wrote something, and the ordinances are still in place right now. The only thing that my part was to facilitate was the fine schedule, the teeth to the ordinance. And that come from Wilbur's recommendation, Renee Honey, the district court, and that's what was given to the lawyer. And it was explained to the attorney, and given to him and explained what our goal was. It's not to rewrite the ordinance, it's just to add that. Well, it come back and said this conflicts with 389. This is what he wrote, 2.5 pages of what to do. You can do this, or do this, do that, or I would do this. And so, I mean, by this point, the computer was about ready to go out the window. But, so I chose method X to do. So I did what, by his recommendations, and then I sent it to him. I even hard copied, sent it to him. And I wait. And that was, I believe, in January this year. And what's going on? And he didn't get them. Or could you send them electronically? So I sent electronically. I sent him 4 copies. 2 originals, what we have current now, and then the 2 that modified 389 and 462. And my last correspondence was, I don't see him here, I don't have him, could you do this again? So, and then I see that he sends a bill. So I just personally, nothing against them personally, but I don't believe it's serving the city's best interest.
Having them
What
as
is
our
it?
lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is our city attorney.
What is
Right.
that serving
Yes.
Having advocates law represent the city, at least in this fashion, with this
issue?
issue.
And did I hear out of that too that you're basically saying unfortunately stop everything you've done so far, look at Reardon's, tweak it
Yeah.
to make it fit Harrington, and replace those other two with the one.
And sometime, I'd like, if we plan on a workshop or something, to share that, I mean, all of us sit down and look at this. One of the problems that Harrington, the city of Harrington's gonna find is we don't have a police department. But however, we can get around, there's ways to work with that issue. We can still accomplish what we, the complaint or the issue of not having the teeth in the ordinance. There's ways to deal with that. And we have to look at it, that's gonna be number one. And the fact that, since I personally don't believe, I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like legal really looked at our ordinances back that far, or really put a lot of time into them. Cause for an attorney to, I mean, they've changed the law in 2010 regarding junk cars, and I believe it has changed again within the last 5 years. I've heard, there's some other stuff. So I really would feel more comfortable using something that's working right now for,
Okay.
in this case, Reardon. Because Wilbur's was most current, and it was an issue with the district court recognizing these city ordinances,
Okay.
town ordinances. And I wrote it to such, and now I'm hearing, well, there's not quite. So we can explain it more in depth, not waste the, fall on, bore everybody to death here. But it's frustrating working with the state of Washington laws. I mean, they changed laws, and they never told me, they told us about it, so. We need an attorney that's up on this to tailor it to it maybe, or maybe not, but it's, in respect to using Reardon's, and I've talked to the police chief there, Mr. Andy Mankey, and he said he'll walk us through this, he'll come down, and first of all, do we even have a code enforcement officer that wants to, or be on board? Volunteers, anyway? But that's one of the issues, that's another issue, biggie, that we could deal with this. So there's a lot to it, I just haven't forgotten about it.
So
So
is the council willing to think about tabling this item today, moving it to the 27th, and put that on the first item of our agenda?
I suppose, yeah,
So
so April
long
27th?
as I would recommend or request that we have an action item to vote on. Maybe the first step is repealing one or both of those ordinances, but let's do what we can do. If we need to vote on changing lawyers, if we need to vote on repealing ordinances, let's take a step.
So just a quick one in the lawyer thing, I've been involved with him the last 4 or 5 days. I called him last Friday was the first time, which his office is closed. And he answered the phone. Was his first mistake. When you answer your phone on your day you're not open. But at any rate, he doesn't live in Wilbur, he lives down on Lake Reservoir. And he said, the first thing I will tell you right now is I will not come to any meeting in Harrington. It's too far to drive. Which is fine with me. He said he would send somebody else. He basically does retirement planning for people. Estate planning, all that sort of thing for retired individuals.
I'd like to expound on that too. I found, dealing with different cities and towns in the past, and most recently, they use a fellow or a firm that specializes in municipal laws and dealing with this. And it comes recommended, but I don't know if I bring that up right now, but maybe the next meeting or shortly.
Yeah.
I would suggest going that way.
His comment was to me that he does not care for working on ordinances and regulations.
Just
And
the
I
person
understand that,
we
that's
need.
fine. So maybe that's something we can also quickly do if anybody knows and think about possibly going a different direction for legal advice. Because these things are time sensitive. I know you spent a couple weeks there typing and retyping and combining.
And I still have all my hair, pretty much.
Yeah, but if you don't do that for a living, that's real frustrating.
It is.
I would also venture a guess that even though he's probably, our current one's probably cheaper.
190, he raised it up,
Yeah.
Yes,
Agreed, but it's not 300.
right?
But
What are you getting for
what
that $190
yeah, what
an
he's
hour?
doing in 2 hours, a $300 attorney
Could do half an
can
hour.
complete in 15 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
The old saying, you get what you pay for, and that's true. My experience has been with, you have some that'll be cheap, but you'll spend 10 hours, and then one that's high priced and only spend an hour and get the same result. And going forward with all our ordinances, resolutions and everything, and running stuff by illegal, I think it behooves us to go a different route.
Question. If I heard you correctly, David, I believe you said, you felt, you had the impression that the city was being billed for work that had not been done?
We did get a bill. 400, was it four?
What's the, has
Well, actually, I got the bill.
But you said
thank you, David.
also,
How generous of
if I
you.
understood correctly.
I'll get the
you
next one.
said You felt the work had not been done?
No, well, here's how I typed all this stuff up as per the original contact last September, October. And he come back with it, I think it went through Jerry, our clerk, and it said, well, you have a problem with 389. I go, well, what's 389? And I says, where'd you pull that out of? And so I read, okay, yeah, it's an ordinance and it deals with nuisance. It does not the junk car. I would change this and that and all that stuff. So I was working on it and contacted. So through the next couple months, working on it, and then I give it to him, and then I even mailed it, postage, like put it in the mail and gave all that stuff to him, and a big letter, or a letter, stating, this is our goal, this is the purpose of it. Would you please look this over, pick it apart, make any changes you feel necessary. We want to get this in place, and if it passes, or whatever it takes, type it up so we can vote on it. Your expertise and do that. And that's usually what people send that's what they're paid to do, because they're the lawyer. I'm not. And then he loses it, he doesn't have it. And for a while there, I think he sent one to the clerk, Jerry here, saying, is David still there? I haven't been able to contact him, I don't know what was going on with these crazy machines, but it's just been a nightmare, and I apologize because it's dragging on way too long, because we have that time of year, code enforcement officer and stuff coming up, potentially, if we con somebody or sweet talk somebody into taking it, and alleviate some of the frustrations that the past code enforcement officers were having with ordinance. So that's where that stands. I hope that answered your question. Sorry to carry on.
Yeah.
so would you be willing to make a motion that we look at the junk car ordinance from Wilbur? Maybe not,
Reardon.
Well, I don't
Reardon,
know if we
excuse-
need a motion to consider it. I'm just saying if, for the agenda next time, we should maybe have it as an action item to consider some motion. Like I said, I don't know what the first step is. You wanna change to a specialized firm first? Maybe that's the first step. You wanna repeal ordinances first? Maybe that's the first step. It sounds like we might need to repeal existing ordinances before we could really consider Wilbur's.
Or
Sounds
Reardon's.
like.
Yeah.
But I haven't been the one driving this, so it's probably a better
Reardon.
question for David as to his
I
recommendation.
will clarify that in the CAO ordinance, within that ordinance, it said we are hereby repealing the prior CAO. So I think you can do it in
Sure.
that one document.
Yeah. I think getting an attorney on board that specializes in this type of municipal law in small towns, cities, would be our best bet to start with. That way, any correspondence, questions, this is what we want to do, and fire it off to them, send it off to them, and get an answer.
Well, I'd say this,
You know.
if you have the name of someone, I don't know if lawyers would typically do this for a city, but see if they would be willing to call into our next meeting and have a little bit of a discussion with us to say what they generally do, what things they're familiar with, and maybe the first step is getting to know them a little bit before we pull the trigger on going to someone else, because I don't inherently know. I mean, we can get recommendations, but you know, until we maybe talk to them, I'd like to kind of hear, well, you know, how many towns do you serve? What things do you typically run across? That kind of thing that none of us are going to be able to answer on their behalf.
I mean, kind of an interview or a consulting.
Yeah, but I don't want to frame it as if they're trying to bid for our work, because I'm sure they don't need us. But we'd like to
Consultation. is
just
the
kind of
word.
understand who they are and what they do, especially if that's their brand, is to say we specialize in this. Kind of like to hear from them a little bit on what that means.
Yeah,
Especially
so-
if our current lawyer doesn't like doing ordinances. It doesn't sound like we're offending anyone by moving that work.
No.
Do you have a copy of the Reardon nuisance?
I do, but I think I left that at home. I should have, teetering
Sent
with
out
it.
an electronic copy of you.
No, I do not have electronic. I actually do. It's sent to my personal phone. I could send it to you guys electronically. Let the fingers do the walking. Yeah, I can do that.
I would send it to your city email and distribute it from there.
Yeah.
Can it be, in your opinion, can it be tailored to our purposes?
I think so. I do. There's some, to be honest with you, there's some language in it that is geared up to a police department.
You know, makes sense.
So, that part would have to look at it a little different, but for the most part, I think it would cover both what we have, 389 and 462.
462 or 362?
462
Okay.
is our most current 2008 model or
Okay.
author, and 1996, I believe I said. I think it was for the older one, and I don't know where it's in there.
Stop doing that, Levi. Stop doing that.
And like I said, I think it behooves us to do that as well, because, like I said, since our current ordinances, the laws when it pertains to vehicles of such and stuff has changed in 2010,
Yeah.
and I think in the last 5 years. I don't know the exact date. So I would concur with Stephen, and the mayor, that will. And I will send that electronically to all the members, so you can look at it and have your input.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's lease a building.
Pardon me?
What's the next thing up? Building lease.
So you're happy with that, where it stands? Okay. Next thing on here is the building lease. As you know, we talked to the gentleman next door who owns this building, and he was interested in leasing it to us as a standalone city hall, instead of the city hall and the library being combined. The library is in the process of possibly expanding, and they would like a little more of our space, which is a good thing. They're talking about moving forward into the future here and making the library grow. We have a problem here many times during the week when we're trying to conduct business and the library is open, or enough people are in here that you have no space to conduct any kind of a reasonable interview or conversation with somebody without wondering who's looking over your shoulders or who's listening to your conversation. So the building next door is for lease. I don't know if anybody made it down here last Friday, I believe it was.
Thursday or Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe it was Friday. The building owner was there for an hour and a half.
You
In
got
which-
to walk through?
I've been through it before.
Okay.
And it has a room about half the size of this that could be the city council chamber like this. And it has 5 rather large offices and an entry area with a desk. It is an office building, it's not a house.
Right, it was originally United Grain Growers.
Right.
office.
Last time I was in there was 29 years ago, so.
So he was mentioning,
Peddling.
and I think, well, I wouldn't wanna bring up any cost issues,
Okay.
but he, wanted to lease it for, a fixed amount, and he wanted a 3 to 5 year lease, which is not a bad situation for us in some respects.
Would he?
And,
Oh, sorry.
and for him, I think it would be an excellent situation to lease to the city. I mean, there's a good chance we're not going to grow pot in there, as were the last group.
Groovy, yeah.
Although he said he had no guarantee of that, which I thought was a little strange, but,
What did you say about the last group?
well, they were growing,
Weed in there.
yeah, they were becoming horticulturists within his building.
It was the
Yeah,
Pot
license.
Palace.
They had a license.
They had a
Oh.
license, they did it
Yeah,
legally.
they have a business out east of town too.
They didn't grow there.
I don't know all
Think
the,
we
he wasn't
do.
happy about some of the things, so at any rate, there are many offices in there.
And
Did-
2 bathrooms.
And a
Yes.
kitchen now too, I think, right?
There is a kitchen in the hallway.
Is the safe still there?
Yes, there's a big safe and a storage area. We could probably clean out the back room here.
Did he, you don't have to throw it out now, but did he give you a figure?
Yes,
Okay. And my last question, just curious. Did he say anything about whether or not they'd ever be willing to sell it?
I didn't ask him that question.
Okay.
Is that lease, is it locked in for those
Not for price?
price?
No, he was insinuating that he wanted to have a certain percentage, the ability to raise it every year.
Have,
So I think the lease and all of that negotiation would be having to take up by,
Executive session.
well, with a group of people who wanted to be hard-nosed about negotiating.
have we talked to our city treasurer about this at all?
Yes.
What is the city treasurer's sentiment?
Well, he thought it was wonderful because he's never loved the situation we have.
Mm-hmm.
He actually thought that he would like to have an office and maybe continue being the treasurer. A place where,
He could work uninterrupted.
yes,
Yeah. What a lovely thought.
well, it's a novel thought, yeah.
Are we looking at a time frame to make a decision that nobody's knocking down his door, or are they?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, he said we had 3 weeks in which to tell him. And if we told him he was not going to put a shower in the place, because before he can rent it out now as a residence, he has to put a shower in and do some other things, which it wouldn't need if it were as a business.
There are a couple things that trouble me about the arrangement. One is the expense. That's a considerable amount of money for a facility where I presume we have no expense in this building, do we?
Lighting,
Well, it's an
I mean,
absorbed cost at this point.
We're not renting this building from anybody.
No, that's correct.
So if at $1,000 a month, that's a $12,000 hit.
How does the library board feel about this? Okay. I'd like to see the inside of the building.
That could probably be made.
Okay.
what's our contingency plan? 3 to 5 years, we lock into that, you move what in there? And we get ticked off, or they ticked off, or something goes kafooey with it, what do we do then? Meanwhile, the library has built up a parlor in here, and where do we go? You know, that would be my concern. I'm for buying more than renting, but I understand both sides and the dynamics playing out here. But my only concern, number one, is contingency plan in the future. If it was a long term, like a 99-year lease, like a lease from the government type thing. But the ability, if you sign a lease, theoretically, you're locked in. The negotiations with the raises and all that's an issue with me that we'd have to look at. Because
What about a lease, 3-year lease with an option to buy at the end?
And those are all negotiating points, as is the percentage. I
Right.
could never go with something that just has an open percentage at the end of the year. We're just gonna randomly come up with a number and increase it. That
yeah.
So
that'll
we
never fly.
pretty much just need more information before we.
And hence, that's where a new attorney that deals.
Right.
And-
So
and-
are you just looking for our sentiment on this right now? Direction?
Yes.
If I can give my sentiment. if we
Go
can.
for it.
Okay. I do not find the current situation to be a nice working environment. Having spent time in here, it's a very busy place. And even when it's just city business, trying to do work in here, the interruptions are almost constant. And I'm only here, 4 hours, 3 hours a week. So the current situation is not really acceptable. Is this an alternative? Yes. Are there other alternatives that I think could be explored? Yes. There's some space in the very back of this building. I don't know how to clear it out or how to even get started, but that could be part of those options. 3 years from now, assuming she's not here now, but the Preservation Society managed to get grants to fix the upstairs, though, including a ADA compliant way to get up there, those could be options. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I would like to seek out an option. If this is the best one, then so be it. I'm hesitant, like Peter, to spend more money. I would like to explore other options as part of the whole question.
We're not, one of the things you brought up or touched on, we would not be getting rid of a obligation, we'd be taking on another obligation.
That's true.
Because we'd still be responsible for, in a nutshell, the library and everything, correct?
Actually, the library board is responsible for taking care of this building and the wages and everything else.
I know that's what the resolution, I know what that says.
Yeah.
And why it was done that way, folks, I don't, it's beyond me. Because what's their ability, are they,
But also the city council has to fund the library.
right, that's, just so we're clear, I mean, I like the idea, well, we've talked off record before about things, but, just to think things through, is that something the library board currently is in favor of, or do they look at it as, hey, you're abandoning us, or, I mean, do you have any sentiment there from the board or the
No.
library folks?
No, I don't at the present moment.
But this would be a new expenditure, sorry, Mr. Davenport, go ahead.
I mentioned I had 2 reservations. The other one is, it's been suggested that there might be room in the alternative building to house, for example, the Chamber of Commerce. That leads to a situation if the city clerk has to do banking in Davenport, that leaves the building open if there are people in the chamber offices. What I'm getting at is I'm troubled by the perceived absence of security.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue.
I think I can speak to the chamber as it currently stands. They meet for a couple hours once a month. And
Where?
that is
Where
at the posting office.
Okay,
At 4 o'clock, after she's closed, they meet there for an hour. They try to keep their meetings to an hour. So if that was an option that they were doing it there, it could easily be scheduled so that they would not be there without, they would not be there absence of somebody else for the city in attendance. That's easily achieved.
I guess to add to that, to your sentiment, Mr. Davenport, if you move like this, I personally would like to see it city hall business, period. No other outside groups involved. I mean,
Yeah.
if you wanna decide to take that leap, cause as soon as you start, then this group, and that group, and then you kind of lose what we're trying to gain.
You don't want 500 keys like we
Solve.
have to the memorial hall over there, just floating around.
That's what he's saying.
Exactly.
They change them out every few years.
Exactly.
Well, and to that end, if the posting office wasn't there and the chamber needed to meet and have space to meet, they could rent out the Memorial Hall.
Memorial Hall's perfect.
That's my perception of what
What
it's
it was
there for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like I've got to happen what I wanted to happen here. And that was bring attention to a problem that truly exists. Maybe this building is not the perfect match for a fit for us.
But we need something.
If it is, then yeah, it needs to happen, or at least some kind of a commitment soon, but
I guess what I would say is that given that the OPMA allows for the discussion of the acquisitions of real property through leases in executive session, and I do not find a value statement of having our own building to be in question, then the only matter is how much would it cost us, and I am not prepared to discuss that in public session, so I have no further comment on the matter at this time.
okay? Anything else?
If I had to vote today, I'd vote nay on it.
Okay. Well, if we move on to the next subject, how about wind damage?
Okay.
Is this Stevens?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
There's just two things. One is that the stop sign across from me is down. The wind
Up on the
blew it
top of the
down.
hill? Yeah?
What is down again?
Stop sign.
I didn't do it.
Which,
Huh?
I didn't do it.
Stop sign.
I didn't.
where do you
I
stop?
don't know that it's being used very much anyway.
Where do you
so
stop there?
It's not
Which,
being
which,
used.
which direction on, is that
This would be
second?
coming up the hill.
Adams,
You're supposed to stop coming up the hill?
Don't worry, most citizens don't know that.
I'll attest to that.
Stop sign there?
Not that I ever
Well,
know.
there's not right now.
It's laying on the ground, and it was up.
Is it in your in your little
No,
corner?
no, it's in Brent's side, the north side, northwest side of that intersection.
Okay,
So headed south or
so it's on Second,
If you're headed
Yes,
to the
it's-
golf
yeah.
course,
Second and Adams.
so
yes.
intersection, my house, parsonage, Brent's house, stop sign.
Okay.
I didn't notice that, I just stopped anyway.
Good for you. Bonus points for being a good citizen. You can cash them in at the end of the
We
meeting.
thought those stop signs were just merely suggestions, right?
Guidelines.
So that's Second and Adams.
Yeah.
Okay,
What other wind damage?
The second thing is, do we have any type of a tangible plan to not have a roof rip off the Memorial Hall when the wind comes?
yes.
Because
Yes.
we've attempted to fix it, and I'm not, this is not directed at you, because you weren't, for one thing, you weren't even mayor the last couple times, so this is not a, what's wrong with you, Jess? It's saying, why can't, like, we've attempted to fix that roof twice, why is it, like, can't we just put enough screws in it that it can't possibly come up again?
No, the problem is it's called a parapet wall. Tom from
Right.
Diamond was out here yesterday. And the bricks on the top of that parapet wall, the 100-year-old mortar is now almost ceased to exist.
Okay.
And
so
when
that's
you
what-
put screws into
it
that
just goes
mortar,
right out.
Slides right around.
Okay.
well, there's a couple of bricks hanging, looks like hanging in the air over there.
Yeah,
They're in a screw, that's all that's holding them is through the sheet metal.
okay.
And
the brick.
attached to the
So
brick.
the only way
So-
to fix the roof of the Memorial Hall is to fix the bricks of the Memorial.
That's right. And Jerry got a quote yesterday, and I think that quote, if I remember right, said that he wanted a considerable amount of the sheet metal removed so we could start disassembling that little puzzle there and then mortar it and put it back together so that they could secure it properly.
So are we lucky enough to have insurance, Dane, to help us with
A
that?
claim has already been put in.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's all in the process. It's just taken a while to get everybody out here and determine
Good
what
man.
the problem is.
Cool. Well, then I'm good on wind damage, that's all I have.
Okay,
It's worth mentioning that there's a wind damage on one of the, towers, one of the grain bins.
right?
And it's not directly our concern, but the safety issue makes it.
It could blow off.
You walk under that and a chunk of sheet metal
Is it
comes
the
off
square
of there,
one?
it's gonna be,
Or right up in here in the
it's
sheet metal in the upper
get
corner?
yourself decapitated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I brought that to somebody's attention.
You can hear it.
There was a couple pieces laying in the schoolyard here the other day when I was up there.
I used to work on that
I'm not
stuff all the
surprised.
time,
So,
I think
10
we ought
years,
to act on that
and every
one
time it fell,
before
I
this.
always was amazed that there wasn't space.
well, I don't think that's
underneath it
our,
when it
that's
came down.
probably the green.
So the
It's worth a
Company.
call.
Highline.
building fell off.
Highline,
Highline.
okay?
Was that
Shipped
before?
the
Yeah, you can
concrete
hear it.
below it.
You may
I
not
know.
see it
There's a-
right off the
there's a
bat,
block
but you
about
can
that
hear
big.
it.
You know how
If
many
that
people are
came
killed by
off in
falling
high
coconuts
wind, it
every year?
could cut somebody
Or after the slide?
in half,
Right before,
Well, certainly agitate them.
yeah.
day before.
Casey.
Okay. You had an issue, sidewalks.
Mine was spraying.
Spraying,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's being addressed too. Who asked about sidewalks?
I think I may have. in
No, it
addition.
was you. I'm
I
almost
just
sure.
made a side comment.
Cade commented and Peter responded
What's,
to it.
what's
Yeah.
the, procedure for getting a sidewalk repaired? Pastor Clark, touched on it, but if there's a sidewalk that is damaged beyond repair,
I-
what's the procedure for applying for?
I'll have to,
I think we have an ordinance or some more paperwork on addressing that.
I'll have to research that.
Can I have that ordinance so I can read it?
Yeah?
Everybody's staring
Yes, you
at
can.
Jerry.
You would like the sidewalk ordinance, or can you give me a specific, what you'd like?
I need to know one of two things. Can I remove it so that it's no longer a hazard without having to purchase a new sidewalk?
You mean, can you put lawn there and take the sidewalk out? Is that what you're asking, or a gravel path?
No,
I
just
can't,
let it
I
go.
can't answer that question, but as long as I'm getting,
That's what I'm looking at.
okay.
That is a dangerous sidewalk.
We have,
Levi,
we have several of those in town
wasn't that
here.
addressed
And we have people parked
We were
3-4 years ago?
on Sunday morning.
talking about that before because of the one up there
During.
The
off
park.
Fourth Street and then the one up at the park.
Thank
That
you.
those are the
Right on
city's
Fifth.
responsibility.
Fifth and Lincoln.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a year ago.
That
All
huge,
Give it.
and
Yeah.
the tree needs to actually come out. That's
Theory,
our tree.
we could cut those trees down and rip out the roots and replace the sidewalk. We could.
The trees,
It is the sidewalk now.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
tree has limbs that are this big around up there. They
But
weigh-
yeah, it's the city's
But there was
responsibility.
some
as far as I
paperwork
know.
on it, whether it's an ordinance or resolution or guide.
Because we
there's
discussed it a
guidance
few years
to it.
ago.
So 3 years ago, I was told if I came through and tore it up, it would be my responsibility
To replace it, huh?
Yeah.
There's
Or not.
actually nothing left of the sidewalk, it's just big chunks.
It just
Yeah,
looks
I've been there
pretty-
too. I know what you're talking
Who
about.
tore up the town
So-
square?
Rocky Road.
Can, I would say, let's look at the ordinance or resolution or whatever it is that governs.
Get him the
us,
information he needs.
There's a Roman
this.
for the better sidewalk.
Because,
Their roads are
I'm-
still standing.
you know, what I've learned is there's a lot of hearsay,
Yes,
Yep.
so I would like to read what
So I
our
did get
past,
that information from the current mayor at that time.
again, if I haven't looked at a document, I'm
I
going
think the
to.
bigger issue would likely be, is it legal for the city to remove a sidewalk without having an obligation of
Replacing it.
Because if it would be, then we could designate that a volunteer event, that we could maybe have some volunteer paperwork signed, and then other people could do that on behalf of the city, if that would be the most expeditious way of doing it. But if the city is obligated to make sure that there is always a sidewalk where there has been a planned sidewalk, then no one would be able to remove that without an obligation to replace it.
Is this an AWC question?
It isn't,
probably.
I think it's an
or it's
AWC.
maybe,
and I
or
already-
maybe an
I
attorney.
apologize.
So,
No.
I've,
No,
you're fine.
You're just
For my
attacking
opinion,
issues
I'd
that are
love to just tell you,
everywhere.
just go rip it out and be safer.
We have to go
I
back
don't
to the,
know
a
if
couple
we
years
can do
ago,
that.
all that, there was some obligation, there's more to it than meets the
Yeah,
eye.
that's. It was an involved process.
So what I want to do is, because my understanding from prior mayor is we're supposed to have an inventory of the sidewalks for the city for the
Yep.
AWC, which
Yep.
to the best of my knowledge was not done.
correct.
So I wanna get from them what their criteria
If you
is.
need
and-
help doing that, inventory, I can do it for you.
Well, I'm gonna find out.
Paperwork and I'll walk and do it for you.
I'm gonna find out what their expectations are, you know, measurements, latitude, longitude, I wanna find out what they want before I spend another step on it.
You're
But-
willing to volunteer your time other than in the sidewalks around the church?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I
I'm-
said
I'm
I
looking
was
for
as
help.
well, that my wife and I regularly walk in the evenings. I said I'd take pictures while I was walking.
How many people actually walk on the sidewalks and not be on the middle of the road?
Yes.
Around here.
I try
don't,
to when
because they're
there's a
all broken
sidewalk
up.
to walk on.
Which
Depends on which
Sidewalk
sidewalk
or
we're
the
talking
roads?
about. Depends on which
whatever.
sidewalk you're talking about.
Well, there is a sidewalk that is in front of my house. From
Was a
that
sidewalk?
side, no, it is.
Okay.
I maintain it
Well, I
from
can tell
that
you
side
this,
to that
The
side.
book Where the Sidewalk
Beyond
Ends
that,
wasn't
nothing
written
on
in
the whole
Harrington
street.
because that would be a multi-volume series.
Yes. Okay, I'll get after that and see if I can find some of that info. The last item on there was weeds. I've been talking with Levi about that. Our current city public works man is going to start in about a month and a half going to school
Okay.
to get his
herbicide?
spraying license. So that was the next class available.
So that's June.
It was June something, can't tell you the exact date right now. So at any rate, I suggest we just get somebody to do it right now. If
That
it needs-
okay. That's exactly where I was gonna go with it.
Okay,
It's gonna need to be done before he gets his stuff.
and I'm gonna need help
Stuff being
Otherwise, the
licensed.
city will be growing.
with
Exactly.
where the weeds are at.
Okay.
Okay, are you willing to help out with that?
Sure.
Because if we're gonna hire somebody, we need to tell them where to.
Right. I have one suggestion that would go with that. Before we do it, say as soon as we schedule the guy to come out and do it, I'd put up a notice at the post office, the store, the city hall, and maybe even in the paper, letting the people in town know that it's about to happen. Because there are a lot of people that don't want their gardens and their flower beds.
Or their animals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Give them an
Like
opportunity
the
to put up.
children.
Isn't most things now have to be free of a lot of biohazards? I know we live in an agricultural community, and I know a few farmers, and they'll tell you that stuff doesn't hurt anybody, and it's never bothered me.
It's in the food that you eat,
Yeah, I know. As long as you don't eat the wheat, you're okay, huh?
or the chicken. or
But
the
yeah,
cow.
it just people are gonna want to put up please
so
don't
will
spray
you work
signs
with
and
me on
stuff
that?
like that. Yes, I will.
Well,
Okay.
there is a WSDA, Washington State
Right,
Department of
Product-
Agriculture, they send out a list, I haven't had mine recently, but it has a list of pesticide-sensitive individuals in the whole state.
Really?
And any applicator gets
Right.
gets a list of those.
Because I know just from personal experience, my house will have "Please do not spray" signs up
Right.
in
They
front of
kinda-
it because yeah,
So, to anybody listening or in the audience, that if you're sensitive to that, then I'd suggest you contact on their website to get on that list.
okay,
And they'll publish your name and address
yeah.
of pesticide-sensitive individuals.
Do they spray neighbors' yards too? I have a neighbor
Good
that
way
is
to get some,
horticulturally
advertising mail to
going
your
the
address
largest crop of dandelions in the state, I'm sure.
Well, they can make wine out of that and salads.
Well,
Okay.
my thing right now that I'm looking at though, I'm gonna talk to because MKB hasn't gotten back to me. I asked them about herbicide. He was gonna send me their guys' information. Haven't got it. I have to call him again. But I'm gonna find out who does the applications for the school as well, and talk to them and just
Since I sign a check to him, maybe he'll be more responsive to me.
exactly.
A rather large check every
Yep.
month.
The issue,
So do you want to get a hold of MKB then, and I'll talk to
I
the
will
school,
call MKB tomorrow.
find out what it's gonna cost
in the
us.
past, the city has used what I would call organic sprays consisting of vinegar and dish detergent.
Yeah,
And I would suggest we try that in lieu of some of the more formal pesticides,
they do that for pesticides or weed control?
Well, they're all,
weed killer.
Herbicides,
Okay,
all pesticides, just ones for
Right.
plants and stuff.
the obnoxious plants.
It'd save a lot of money for one thing.
yes. Okay,
One other point, Mr. McGowan has some recipes for pesticides, or herbicides,
The cocktail for that,
yeah.
Okay,
Never before.
We just took 2 pickup loads to the landfill today
Pick up loads of what?
of materials that have skull and crossbones on them and glass bottles that the city's been storing for years.
Oh yeah.
And
I think it goes to the Don't Ask, Don't Tell shed.
no, it's okay. They were more than happy to take it for us, and we were tickled pink with that. So they're handling the disposal of those items for us. Ones
Okay.
that we've had.
Yeah, what do you
The
think?
county is. And
Right, that's
the-
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
the
the
shed
county-
where you just drop the stuff off and leave it there.
Well, I'm assuming they're going to take care of this.
Oh yeah, they
properly.
do. They do. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Just gonna
Okay,
dig a big
mayor's
hole there if I
report.
Keep going.
I've been working with a group called FLO Analytics here the last week or so, and they are the ones who are doing the GS mapping. And got hold of the man, and nobody has contacted him for about 6 months now. So before the end of the week, he and I will get together and see where we stand with the cemetery, and I'll have a report for you there on the 27th. Whether we have the time to go forward before that money runs out. We paid $6,700, which gave us 45 hours of their time. And I haven't been able to get that information out of him as of yet, exactly how many hours we have on the books with them, but I think that's what they do, is they sell time by the hour on this with their equipment.
right.
And with the type of plan we have, we should have gotten 45 hours, and I don't think we've used it. So,
We have
Wasn't there an issue regarding the names?
refused to continue working because the data we could give them regarding the mapping of the plots was not sufficient,
yeah.
as they asserted, to complete their work.
Per his last discussion with me, he wants better copies of that board right there, the 3 sections of board and the black book. So I'm gonna work with him this week and probably into next week, and we'll see if we can come up with recouping some of that service from them.
Mr. Mayor, is this something
Surprised they aren't stone.
that they're gonna map, who that individual or person is?
Yes.
Or just, there is a grave here?
No,
Okay,
we're trying to get, and I may need to get somebody with some very good eyes
Okay.
to look at what's written on those little 1x1 squares in there. And maybe the person who wrote it, who was a master at writing small, and see if she can interpret what some of those names are. And apparently they have ground radar, sensing radar, that they can tell you, go over a spot and tell you if there's anything in that spot. Because there's areas up there that we don't know if they're occupied or not.
Yeah, GPR, ground penetrating radar.
Radar, yeah.
I
So,
mean, if nothing else, just to have a map of what they find underground, even if we can't relate it to this, is still useful to us.
sure,
So
Yes.
I guess I struggle to understand why this is a blocking. I mean, I can understand why the inability to read this makes it so they can't deliver everything they'd like to deliver. But if you tell me you can't map the underground stuff to this, at least just give me a picture of what's underground. That is still progress.
I
If
don't know
there's
if this
something
is
there.
done aerial from satellite, or if somebody comes out and walks with a
They walk
ground.
it.
It's walked.
Okay.
It's ground penetrating radar.
Okay, that's one issue. Second issue, last week we approved the draft of our CAO, and since then I've been online with Jen and the Department of Commerce, and that has been uploaded to their website called PlanView. So it is now there, everything's done, it's in place, and we've already had Fish and Wildlife, DNR, and one other one, the Department of Geology.
Geologic planning, liaison.
NG,
This is-
NGA?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, 4 of the 5 groups have already looked at this and have sent back what they'd like to see changed, which was minimal. So, according to the people in the Department of Commerce, this is going fine, and they don't see any reason why this shouldn't be on our meeting on June 8th. to be voted on and approved or not. For,
Why that
We
late?
voted on it
that's,
already.
that's the first meeting after 60 days.
Oh,
So the
okay, right.
It
'cause
has
of
to
the-
be in this,
yeah,
in
yeah.
plan view for anybody within the state who has an Eagle account that can get on and
Yeah, that makes sense.
have purview of our thing. And so far, everybody has responded and been very favorable to it.
Yeah.
So, we've had nothing but good comments.
Yeah, the comments that they've made literally are some, for example, a department that was named this and now is named that.
I see.
So,
Typo.
See, who's a plagiarizing guy?
or yeah, and a typo. I didn't know that floodplain is one word.
Yes, that's true. Floodplain is not
Depends
two
which
words.
English
Then what is one
teacher
word?
you
Club,
have.
Floodplain
floodplain.
is one word.
A-N-E, right?
Is that P-L-A-I-N-E or P-L-A-N-E?
Yeah. So anyway, it's minor stuff like that. So when we get it, when we approve it, it'll just be with those corrections in their input with regard to the stuff that the meat and potatoes of it they liked. Got a couple of positive comments in addition, because it came up as a question. No, we do not have any geologic hazard areas in the city of Harrington.
Great.
Yeah.
So
So the sidewalks are fine.
It's the trees that are the problem, huh?
It's not sidewalk, it's a geological
So-
feature.
So far, that project is going just fine. There's still some more things to be hooked up. We've got 4 or 5 other acronyms that we need to comply with, but they sound like pretty much yes or no type reports. It's just you have to comply and speak to the group that's in charge of that acronym. And once you do that, you've solved the problem. So we're moving forward with the rest of the equipment in town. Our street sweeper, I have deemed unusable. After we bought 2 new batteries and filled up all of the oil chambers on the machine, we were able to get it started. And Troy was pretty proud of the fact that he could move it back and forth and steer it around. The only problem is it doesn't have any brakes. So if you go to get out of it and you leave it between forward and reverse, it could come after you. And this thing being a 20,000 plus pound vehicle is
Hydrostatic
not the
drive,
thing you want coming after you. And it's my understanding their brake line is buried somewhere within the body of this, and it's just has a small hole, I'm told, and it shouldn't be a problem to fix.
If
Well,
you can find it, right?
if you can find it amongst all of the gallons of oil and dirt and brushes. And so I think we're gonna try to hire a street sweeper to come for our first time here in the spring and just get it done.
Hire or rent one?
Well, one or the
One or
other. It's about $1,000 a day to rent a Ford pickup that has a sweeper underneath like you'd see, holds 2 yards. So it's in Airway Heights. There's a 4-hour charge and a day charge, and I don't know what a day means to them, but that's gotta be a good hour to Airway Heights.
Is that with the operator in it?
No, I'm assuming you rent this, that was what it
Okay,
looked like.
okay. Really?
Looked like a full-size Ford pickup, I'm gonna guess a 1-ton, I don't know. And it was 2 or 2.5 yard capability. So,
Have we approached neighboring cities to see whether we could use their equipment?
probably so, but would you wanna drive, you've seen our street sweeper. Would you wanna drive that from Davenport or? And of course, we drive combines around here all the time, so I have not approached anybody, no. I've been up to here, Peter, for the last 3 months. Work,
I know what busy's like,
working on, and still have a lot to do.
other more important stuff.
Yeah, so that's going good. We hauled a couple loads today of hazardous equipment. One second, Jerry. Hazardous materials to our county, then they accepted that for us. We've had 3 sewer problems in the past week here, where right below Cade over there, right behind Cade, and one up on Second. All of them seem to be up on this hill over here where we have manholes that are about 6 to 8 feet deep. And when we get there, the manhole is full and bubbling out on the ground. So Troy's becoming fairly proficient with our back truck, and then using the equipment we have to try and unplug them. We got a couple that are not draining all that well, so the city sewer decay seems to be sprouting its ugly head this spring.
Alive and well.
Yes, it is. That hasn't changed. Maybe you've seen our new wetlands here. It's between 3rd and 5th on Willis. It's sprouting up again in front of the fire station, and then of course the couple on Willis, so.
The street's always fun.
Is that not it's not including that lady that was here at the
Bailey,
meeting?
Lynn Bailey.
Yes, yeah.
No, she's over here.
Lynn Bailey's issue is a totally separate issue.
Okay.
So all of those kind of things are still going on and happening on a daily basis, along with everything else we're trying to accomplish here. So everybody hold and be real patient with things. I'm finding that term, nothing moves fast in government, is so true. But
Oftentimes for good reasons, or reasons that can't be eliminated.
okay. So, any comments from the public?
I think Jerry wanted-
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry.
I did want to let you know there was a county street sweeper that came down the street this morning.
And you didn't run out and grab him?
It,
Try to offer him a candy bar or two, or?
it was about as big as this desk,
Oh,
and they had a vehicle in front and a vehicle behind, and they just went up and turned around and came back. And when I drove to work, it looked like nobody'd done a thing,
okay.
so.
You know,
Next time, get the detour sign out.
to add to that,
Run
Just
in
keep
front of them.
moving it in front of him.
get a broom.
It's like, man, how's...
You're looking, you saw a broom, right? Not a sweep, I mean, well,
Yeah,
a brush just sweeps, and then there's a vacuum, sweeper vacuum,
Yes.
and then the sweepers that do auger it up and keep it, collect it, so when you go to rent them, if you have one that vacuums, you know,
The one that we looked at was 1,000, had water
It's a
on
big
board.
Hoover.
Yeah.
So it sprays water, you don't have a big dusty mess, and it picks up,
You're about ready for sure.
I believe it was 2.5, maybe it was two
Yeah.
yards.
Prepared, man.
And I figured we'd go dump it at our burn site, or,
well, you're gonna have sand in it, so down at the pits, the gravel pile or whatever.
yeah, that would work too.
And also, I think before you were about to go to public comment,
Yes, but
David, were you wanting to talk about, I believe you said the OPMA training?
Oh, yeah.
oh, sorry.
Is, how's that, is that everybody done that, or anybody?
I actually did it before I swore in.
I did that back in December.
You need to do that before, 90 days after you start, or sworn in, and every 4 years as a maintenance. In your case, it'd be every 4 years, so when's the last time you took it?
Oh, in my case, what?
You've been elected, you've been on the board, the council for more than 4 years,
Yeah.
or
But
consecutive.
the course I took from WAC last December, I think it was, should cover me for that, shouldn't it?
Well, this is regarding the Open Public Meeting Act and the public records.
It's like
I remember
booster
that
shots,
now.
you
It's
have,
on
always have to
MRN,
get another one.
MRSC
They what?
is where you go
I
to
said
take
it's like
it.
booster shots, you
You
always
just
gotta
sit there
get
and take
another
it at
one.
home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Take it at home.
It's on the MRSC website,
The
which
Public Records
is
Act.
AWC.
Yeah.
And they, since I took that in March, what was it, a week later, they've updated it now. They've changed, the governor's changed some stuff to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
not to worry.
yeah, I know, but I mean, well, it's, you should be aware, before it was never a requirement to give public a chance to talk. Now it is. It's one of the things that come up, just so you know.
I don't think Levi's done it.
That's us?
I don't believe Mr. Shank
Nope.
has completed it.
I haven't. AWC give
But
yourself
he
an hour.
promises it'll be done this week.
They found a way to take 15 minutes of reading and turn it into a 45-minute presentation.
I know.
So did you get confirmation that I did? When I've gone back on the website to see that I've done it, they say, who are you?
You didn't print
I think
certificates.
I started
Oh, I
in
think
folders.
them guys are, they just.
No, I did,
Okay, I'll do it.
well, I just wondered, does the clerk know, is that something the auditing looks at? Is that, I mean,
I would imagine it'll end up there,
okay,
since it is a mandatory requirement.
There's no log on before taking the training, so if anyone could take the training and you could not verify who has or
Okay.
hasn't. When I took it, there was no request to log in,
Okay.
so
it's just a certificate to print.
you have to
Okay.
self-attest.
No, I just remember starting that a while back and I never did finish it.
You woke
Is
up sometime later, right?
Exactly.
Question for Mr. Hardy, is it necessary to log into this training with the city?
When I took it, there was no request to log in. I followed the link that Jerry sent. When I clicked on the link, it had a button to start the training. I did so. At no point did it ask me to verify who I was or to log in.
So it doesn't matter what computer you use, don't have to use the city computer.
Correct.
No,
Correct.
Okay.
I did it on my iPad, but yeah.
thank you. Now,
Public comment, right?
public
Okay.
comments.
You've been very patient, Betty.
Oh, that's okay. I go to school board meetings, I know exactly how long it takes. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Betty Warner. I am the ag teacher here at the school, but I'm also on the library board. And I'm not here tonight at all representing the library board, so I want you to know that first and foremost. I am just here representing me, and I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and give you a face to go with one of the board members. I know I won't get to come to the next city meeting because I'll have to be at the school board meeting, which I don't know why we're all on Wednesday night, but that's okay. I want to just tell you how important I think this library is to the city. I have lived in this city almost 15 years. Well, I don't live in the city. I have lived in Harrington, called it my hometown, for almost 15 years. I can't honestly tell you how long I've been on the board. I was privileged when they asked me to do it. I have tried to be really supportive. My high school students have made bookshelves for the library. I've been part of 2 reorganization of the room. And if you do need help and you want to move out, I'd be happy to help you move out because I love the library. I love what it offers to our children when we can do it. I've taught a children's program here at the library when I first came to town. I love what it offers to our older citizens of the town and everyone in between. I think what I would like to communicate to you is I think it's an important part of our community. I think it's both a intellectual and a social part of our community, and I would like to see it always be very relevant to what's going on here in town, which means that I think it serves a tremendous purpose, but we need to stay relevant. We need to stay updated. If we want to have kids coming down here, I found through education that kids are always going to be kids, but to attract them to things, we have to do some things to either have programs, have some devices they can use, some computers. I'd like to see us move with progress into an area that we really truly meet the needs of our community. So I think I wanted to share that with you, that it is very important to this community, and I'd like it to stay relevant. I also am just a little concerned. I'm not here tonight to ruffle any feathers, but I make enough waves up at the school. I really, truly don't want the library board to be connected with making some trouble or bringing up some issues. I think our goal is to have a vision. I realize now we need to definitely update a resolution that provides for us, to us being the board, the library board, to be here. Whatever that looks like, I think the board is very much wanting to make sure that we have a place here and that we continue to serve the community. And there's some things on the resolution that might need to be updated. It's fairly old. I am too, and I think I need to be updated, but that's a personal choice. I think for the city, we should maybe update it, the resolution some. But I just wanted to put a face with one of the board members, and yes, Stephen.
When you say the resolution, are you referring to the ordinance that gave the charter to the library?
Someone sent me this copy. I had no idea we had controversy until somebody sent me a copy of this.
Resolution 9694.
That's correct. That's what somebody sent to me that I was reading, so.
Excuse me? Would anybody know Johnson Family Towing is that?
Yes? We'll go outside, I'll show you.
Thank you. I'm sorry for disrupting you.
That's all right. So, that's
Come
just
up,
what I
buddy.
wanted to say tonight, and thank you for letting me just share.
Thanks for coming, Betty.
Yeah,
You bet.
absolutely.
Thanks, Betty.
Are you coming to the next board meeting?
I can't, I have a school board meeting that
Ah.
night. I wish we didn't all meet on the same night, but, I actually have to do that, cause every program in the school has to present once a year, but it's my night to present, so.
Don't worry, we allow for the joy of being able to watch within your own home where you can have popcorn and enjoy anytime you want. That's
That's
on
how
our
I do the
YouTube
school board
screen.
meetings, except when I have to present my program,
Right, or
so,
at least
yes.
listen to nowadays.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
but thank you for the offer.
I would like to add a little bit to that. I have been meeting with the library board lately. And
Yes, you
giving them
have.
updates, because I do have the after-school program and then the summer program. And I would like to see an expansion of the things that we have provided to these kids, because they need a place to go and they need I brought the kids in here the other day, and of course, you went up out of your chair because of the noise and so on and so forth. So, they need to know how to behave in a library, but they're not here. And there are just so many other things that this library can offer to those children.
Agreed.
And I'm looking for all sorts of different things that we can do.
Yeah, I truly believe the library is ready to move forward.
Yes.
It's been locked up for a couple years, as have the rest of us. And it seems that group has a resurgence and they're tired of being locked up and they want to move forward now.
Yep.
So
We're in the
that's what
blocks-
I see going
We're
on.
in the blocks ready to run.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was talking to our librarian the other day, and she points out that there's an advisory or a recommendation that members of the library board be replaced at least every 10 years. So we're gonna have that issue to deal with in the future.
Truth.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a statewide recommendation, I understand.
Well, and it is part of our resolution, a term is 5 years, can be 5 years, and can be renewed once,
Every 5?
but you can't serve more than 2 consecutive terms.
Any other comments? Yes, sir, Cade?
I'm here to plug the food bank and community, our community. Just to give you a report, we've survived COVID, did a lot of changes over the last 2 years. We average about 6,000 pounds a month of distribution of food on every Saturday. About 20 families and equals about 40 or 400 individuals. We average from 7 volunteers a week to this past week 2 on Saturday. I see Joe close to it. We were all out of town. I was out of town in the meeting and did everything, so we're back and it's gonna be another slow week, but it just, the food bank's here to serve our community. So if you know people in need, don't hesitate to call the church phone, and it goes directly to my cell phone. We do home delivery, so if you know of families in the Harrington community that need food, we have food. I'll even teach you how to bake beans, boil beans. We got beans and we got pasta, lots of it. Second thing is we do have 3 churches with 3 different opportunities that share in the community. Stevens Church has the clothing closet, second and fourth Saturdays of the month. And then the Methodist Church, combined with all the 5 churches, we have a, what is it called? Pastor's Benevolence Fund. That, talking with Lynn Maurer, that all you have to do is just call one of the churches. And she highly says, just call my church, because I'm the one that's at the office the most times, that I can answer the phone and I can get a hold of money. We do a one-time thing. I know at this time, once a year, if you need help with electric, water, we try and help people in our community with need but not abuse it. We are going to do a community VBS June 13th to 17th on the church property. And it's gonna be partnered at this time right now with the Methodist Church and our church, and I don't know how much the community church will be involved, but we're gonna try and get community kids for a week, an hour a day, to find something to do. We have, as if my insurance approves it, we'll have blow-ups that the kids can play on every day. And so it's gonna be on the lawn. No, my lawn guy's not gonna be happy, but it's gonna be on the lawn for a week. But we're gonna reach our community. Baccalaureate's coming up. We're gonna work on that with the new pastor in the churches. I just wanna plug, if you don't go to church, we have a church service on Sunday for Easter if you don't have a home church. So I gotta plug that. Thank you guys for your support, and I look forward to continuing working with the city officials to plug our community and how we help people and do more things as a church, not just one church, just as the church community. So.
Thank you.
Do I still
Thank you.
Thank you, Cade.
Thank you, Cade.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm fine, go for it.
No, just kidding.
You look like you're,
I have a question about the geomapping process. Is that, as far as what it's gonna do for the cemetery, it'll show full plots and empty ones? And there's gonna have to be data entered to identify those, I'm assuming.
I have not met with this gentleman yet,
Okay,
only twice on the phone, and we had some terrible connections,
so I'm asking my question too soon, and I'll
No,
take it back.
you're asking questions that'll help prime the pump, so I can ask him. I'm not sure how the whole thing works.
I'm just dive right into the detail on something like this real quick. And 2 questions is, what do we have to do to get the identifications to match up with the plots that we can tell are full? And is there gonna be a way to get that back, in a form that we can present to people to use around Memorial Day time? Not this year necessarily, maybe, but, a way of getting those identifications and locations out, in a report form that people can look at or take with them to the cemetery.
I think that's the plan, is first of all, to find out where everybody is there. And to find out if there's anybody home there, in the ones where we think, so we can go from there and then start determining who that person is.
Okay,
Well, there are some spots up there that just have the concrete placard there, that I think it's unidentified.
There's some where there's no markers. Because I know Scotty went to open one, and there was something in there, and so our ability at this time to tell where all of the plots really are is not that good. Of course, that happens after 100 years. If you dig for a water pipe in this town, I guarantee you're gonna find this many where you think there's one. And half the time, there's this many of them that have water in them.
I know.
How many are
Nothing in
wood?
my place, yeah.
And 4 of them are leaking.
That's right, and there's only supposed to be one pipe there. It's amazing the things we find when we dig, even after they've been located by the experts.
Fun when you
Warrington,
find the
no one knows
fittings
where
that
the
used to
bodies
have
are
wood
buried.
pipes
And,
attached
and
to
I'm
them.
sure that the whole county is like that. It's not just us.
Well, yeah, there's some old cemeteries in this county too, yeah.
Well, I mean, just everything. All these little towns, people did what they needed to do to survive. So,
How did they map these areas? Ground penetrating radar?
I don't know that for sure, Peter. That's, this is a learning experience for me too.
I mean, how did they or how are they?
How are they? How will they in the future?
It'll be ground penetrating radar. That's what they use.
Do bones show up? Use?
You ever seen
I
CSI?
don't know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
They'll
Watch
tell you if
the
voids or
CSI, yeah.
something's there. I don't think you'll see a picture of
I don't
bones.
think it'll see through the vault.
No, it's,
But graves that are wooden boxes or something, it would show you an object, but it wouldn't show you.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate
Show
this
you
is.
nails in the wooden coffin.
It'll show you something's there.
Well, we'll probably, there'll be answers to these questions coming out
Yep,
once you've met with the folks, right?
yep,
Okay, I can wait.
okay. Yeah, that's going to happen in the next week and a couple days here.
Levi, you're up.
Yep, Levi?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's what you bring me here for.
9:15.
9:15, Jerry.